people to pay attention to what you're doing? Possibly an interesting headline? I don't know. Why did I choose this title for a talk about innovation? Well, there's a few things I've learned over the years. Number one, there is no such thing as a new idea. But you can take the seed of an idea, you can mix it up, spice it up, put it together, massage it, and see what comes out at the other end. Number two, whatever you inherit, wherever you start, whatever your charter is to do things differently, don't ever forget that not everything was broken before you came in. And number three, your legacy should never, ever be to discard the essential while retaining the superfluous. So this is the journey for us in reimagining City Recital Hall. And I can't stress enough that this journey has been non-linear. I mean, it can't be, we're in the arts. So let me start by quickly setting the scene. City Recital Hall, a 1,238-seat recital hall, was established in 1999 as a purpose-built recital hall for the presentation of fine music. It was the first purpose-built venue in Sydney since the Sydney Opera House in 1973. The establishment of City Recital Hall followed extensive lobbying by Sydney's arts community for a customised central city recital space. The City of Sydney has responsibility for the venue through a 99-year lease with AMP, which is the company that built the office tower next door and built the recital hall as part of that commercial project. Now, for the first 16 years, the venue was operated primarily as a venue for hire, primarily for classical music, with a few self-presented concerts each year. Following a review by the City of Sydney, the decision was made to establish a new arts company, a not-for-profit company, City Recital Hall Limited, to manage the venue as a presenting venue with a curated program balanced with the hires. Now, prior to this, I think it's fair to say that the KPIs of the previous company managing the venue were based around utilisation days and commercial return. Now, for us, the new company had to develop a new set of KPIs based around our mission statement, which is to unlock our cultural, social and economic value. Now, no one ever said mission statements were catchy. There was actually nothing wrong with the way City Recital Hall had been managed. In fact, it had been very well managed. The city chose to change the management model, not because it was broken, but because they felt that a new management model could better contribute to the cultural returns and the broader community. So I've been told that this is in some ways quite a unique situation. Now, why would you establish a new arts company when nothing is broken? Well, the management model might not have been broken, but I think it's fair to say that after 16 years, it had become a bit of an anachronism, so it was no longer really fit for purpose. I don't think it's too harsh to say that the venue, even though it had been very well managed, was falling behind the others, especially the new kids on the block that had popped up in the last 16 years, in terms of profile, brand, technical capabilities, and most importantly, vibrancy. The old model did many things well: customer service, access, and of course, we have our prized asset, our unbeatable acoustics, which are the best in Sydney. So, heed the warning. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Now, culturally, the venue has enjoyed a very loyal client and audience base for 16 years, with pretty much all the heavy lifting done by the handful of companies who were involved in its establishment and who continue to present around 120 concerts a year between them. Now, these companies are the Australian Brandenburg Orchestra, the Australian Chamber Orchestra, Australian String Quartet, Musica Viva, and Sydney Symphony. And these were later joined by Pinchgut Opera and Sydney Festival. These organisations were for 16 years termed Priority 1 hirers, which they were, but it's really not a fantastic marketing term, is it? So, first things first, we gave them a new title, Key Presenters. Now, that's not earth-shattering, but it was significant because we, City Recital Hall, could now actively promote the importance of these organisations to our venue. We went further. After 16 years, For the first time ever, we produced an annual program brochure which included every concert of our hirers as well as our own. Well, that's everything that we could get together before we had to go to print. It's been really well received. So you see, when you don't have a headline, you use pets. In managing a venue, one cannot ignore the importance of the visitor experience. That's casual foot traffic as well as the audience experience. People who know us, love us. People who know us, love us. I knew the Recital Hall. I'd been going to concerts on and off for 16 years. But what I discovered in my first few months was that there were many, many people out there, and that's artists as well as audiences, who didn't know we existed. You're a hidden gem. I guess we are. You're Sydney's best kept secret. I wish we weren't. Oh, where are you? Oh, right, you're that place behind the Ivy nightclub. I did a lot of people watching in my first few months. I loitered around the building, outside the building, watching people walk past our doors, totally oblivious to us, absolutely no street presence. What's the most interesting thing about this photo? Now, I would hazard a guess you'd say the bird cages on the right-hand side. Now, even when the concerts are on, we look shut compared to the restaurants and the Ivy, yes, on the left-hand side next to us. Not enough lighting. Our main poster case on the corner of our building shows an original photo of the hall. That photo is 16 years old and faded. And it shows an empty stage. Really doesn't shout, come inside. So, unfortunately that poster is still there, but every time I look at this, I think, okay, first things first when I get back to work. Our box office used to be outside the building in a separated area, shut off from the rest of the venue. And it used to go through the doors on the left of that picture. So, we moved it inside, another way to entice people in. But at first, when people came in, they came into this. We look like an airport terminal. So, we set up a bar in the ground floor foyer. On our first night, we sold 4 drinks for the entire night. It's pretty depressing, but it did improve. We added in some bar stools, dropped the lighting. That bar now does over 1/3 of our total food and beverage sales on most nights. After that, we asked the question, what do other comparable venues, like Melbourne Recital Centre have, for example, that we don't have? A secondary performance space, maybe a 150 to 200 seater for concerts that just aren't suitable for a 1,200 seat hall. What do we have? A foyer, which can be, without too much trouble, transformed into a secondary performance space. For a lunchtime talk, as we did in February, like this, or for a late night cabaret, come musical theatre, come cocktail bar, set up like this. Our new series, titled 2 by 20, is on Thursday nights at 10 o'clock. It's 2 20-minute sets with a 20-minute break in between, because of course, when you go out, you need to have a chance to talk to your friends between music. Our first one was a sellout. These small successes emboldened us. We decided to go even further with a wholly new event next month. Now, twice a year, Pinch Cut Opera come in for a 2-week period, bumping in and rehearsing for 5 days. Now, that's quite normal for an opera company, actually really quick, but it essentially closes our venue for 5 days. This year, Pinch Cut Opera are coming in during the Vivid Festival in Sydney, and we, for the first time, are a Vivid venue. So the last thing we wanted to do was to be closed for 5 days during one of Sydney's most exciting festivals. So we decided that even though the auditorium was out of action, it didn't mean we had to be closed. I mean, we have foyers, right? Actually 3 levels of foyers. And during Vivid, we had already decided to install this in our ground floor foyer. It's an inflatable plastic cube, an artwork and performance platform called Sound Bubble. So what about this idea? A sound party over 3 levels, each foyer themed. An event focused on art music with DJ sets throughout the night from within the sound bubble. Well, as it turns out, I think a lot of Sydney also like that idea because it's already sold out. And the team jokingly say, we should just do sound parties in the foyer and not worry about stressing to sell 1,200 seats to our concerts. Now, the sound party was probably one of the braver ideas we had in our first year, but certainly I don't think it's the bravest. I think our bravest has been Sydney Flash Mob Choir. Now, I'm pretty certain that every arts company has, as one of its goals, audience development. So, surprise, surprise, us too. Attracting new audiences and meaningful engagement with those audiences is a challenge, especially for companies like us, in that we rarely, if ever, do more than one concert of anything. And it's really hard, I'll be truthful, to sell 1,200 seats. We're not like our key presenters with a loyal audience base, and we never will be. So how can we develop audiences? How can we entice people to come to our venue and once they're inside, find out what else we do? So the idea of a sing-along choir was something we'd been tossing up for a while. And there's a few around Sydney and they're all great. As I said, there is no such thing as a new idea. But then the point of difference literally popped up on my phone one day. I received an SMS reminder from my dentist. So, what if we called a spontaneous choir together via SMS? The idea of Flash Mob Choir is that you don't need to RSVP. There is no commitment. You get the SMS with the date and the time, and if you want to, you turn up. You can bring a friend. You can bring 10 friends. You don't know what you'll be singing. You come to the venue, you pick up a song sheet, you sing your heart out for 30 to 40 minutes. That's it. We opened registrations for Flash Mob Choir on the 4th of January this year, and we took bets on how many registrations we'd receive. So one of the team hoped for 500. I actually hoped for 1,000 because it's a biggish number that you can report to your board, right? On our third day, we reached 1,000 registrations. We were really excited, so we posted this. 2 days later, we had 2,000. Then 3,000. We stopped promoting it. We're now at over 5,500 registrations. So, as you can imagine, with this many registrations, I didn't sleep the night before our first flash mob. So I had two scenarios which ran through my head all night. Maybe only 50 people would show up, because of course you don't need to RSVP. Or worse, 2,000 people would show up and the police would be called because everyone would be queuing down Pitt Street and no one would know why. This is what happened.
Good morning, everybody. Hands up if you are a soprano. That's a worry. All right. Hands up if you're an alto or a mezzo. Oh. Hands up if you're a tenor. Oh, very good. Hands up if you're a bass. And hands up if you don't know. So there we go. And it really doesn't matter if you don't know, because the whole idea is we're here to enjoy ourselves singing. Okay? And the song is? In spite of everything that's happening in the world, we will survive. I will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to love, I'll survive. I've got all my love to give. I've got all my love to give. I survive. I will survive. Hey, hey.
"750 people turned up at 8 o'clock on a Friday morning to have Richard Gill lead them in singing I Will Survive. Our Facebook video received 13,000 views in 72 hours. Now, I know that's not a lot for some arts companies, but it was an absolutely huge response for us. Our second flash mob was called on International Women's Day, and we decided to sing Helen Reddy's I Am Woman. These are just some of the ways we've started to reimagine City Recital Hall. But of course, it hasn't all been smooth sailing, if only. So we've made some mistakes, as we've barreled forward, sometimes our execution has just not matched our vision. One would like to think they're rookie mistakes. Well, I like to think they are. Like scheduling an Israeli orchestra on the same day as Sydney's biggest Jewish music festival. Now, you would say that's sheer madness. I think so. Which is incidentally the name of the Jewish music festival that we clashed with. And then, scheduling a 2x20 when the audience in the concert hall doesn't have time to get out before the new audience gets in. So yes, 2x20 is a Thursday night series, except this June, when it will be on a Friday. I think my marketing team's forgiven me for that. So in closing, what is the takeaway? What have we done right? First of all, we've consciously programmed in the gaps, not in competition with our heroes, which we don't want to lose. We want to show that this place is great for all sorts of music. We visualised our foyers, not just as transit spaces, but as places to pause, relax, and as entertainment spaces in themselves. We've invited new audiences and new visitors in with activities that are spontaneous, free of commitment and free of cost. And yes, we are doing our fair share to generate the next generation of singers there. And we've kept what was and what is already successful as we reimagine what we are. Our existing hirers, our existing audiences. And for those who particularly know my absolute addiction to gelato, salted caramel ice cream remains on our bar menu. We seem to be bringing renewed and new interest to City Recital Hall. People are talking to us and about us. Our database is expanding and becoming more diverse. And our numbers tell us that what we're doing is working. Our post-concert surveys for our contemporary concerts show that a quarter of the respondents are first-timers to our venue. Those that come to our flash mob choir are buying tickets to other concerts because, yes, I still loiter around the foyer and I still talk to strangers, but they tell me that they've now discovered what else we do. What we now need to do is to effectively respond to them through the power of analysing our data, tracking the impact of our changes. In a nutshell, we need to unlock the power of Tessitura. After all, as a presenting venue, one of the best measures of success would be if we could sell every ticket to every concert, no matter whether it's a hirer or our own concerts. We need to continuously test what we do, as not everything will work, but as long as we have more wins than fails, then that's okay. And for me personally, and what I tell the team is, let's continue to be brave, but to be peacefully disruptive whilst doing so. Because when you see people respond to you like this, and like this, how can you not just keep going? We are light years away from other arts companies, we know that, but the journey has begun, and we want to make sure it's an exciting and a really fun journey to come.